Welcome back to the Life Signal podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Denver, and I'm so glad you're joining us for what I think is going to be a really vital conversation today. Seriously, this one hits home for so many of us.
Absolutely, Denver. And I'm Lily, excited to dive deep into a topic that honestly I think we all experience in some form or another, but often struggle to talk about openly. It's like the silent epidemic of our generation.
And I'm Andi, rounding out our trio today. You know, I've seen friends, colleagues, even family members wrestle with this, and the stigma around it just makes everything so much harder. Today, we're ripping that Band-Aid off and saying it loud. Burnout isn't weakness.
And that's our title for today's episode. Burnout isn't weakness. I mean, how many of you listening right now have felt that crushing weight? That feeling like you're running on fumes, but you keep pushing because, well, everyone else is doing it. Or, I just need to power through. It's a feeling of utter exhaustion, not just physical, but mental and emotional, that goes way beyond just being tired. And what's wild is, when you feel it, there's often this immediate gut reaction that you're somehow failing, that you're not strong enough to handle it.
Oh, tell me about it, Denver. I remember a few years ago, I was juggling a full-time job, trying to launch a side hustle, volunteering, and still attempting to have a social life. I thought I was doing it all, you know. But I started having panic attacks in the mornings, couldn't focus, and felt constantly on edge. Every email felt like a personal attack. I thought, what's wrong with me? I used to be so good at this. It was terrifying to admit I was struggling because it felt like admitting defeat.
That's exactly it, Lily. And that's the core of why we titled this episode the way we did. Our society, especially in Western cultures, glorifies the grind. We celebrate working long hours, sacrificing sleep, always being available. There's this unspoken expectation that if you're not constantly productive, you're not contributing, or you're somehow lazy. So when burnout hits, it doesn't just feel like physical exhaustion, it feels like a moral failure, and that's a really dangerous narrative.
A dangerous narrative indeed. I think for a long time, I conflated being busy with being important, and being important meant being successful. So if I wasn't constantly on the go, my brain would trick me into thinking I wasn't achieving enough. But burnout isn't just being tired, right? We've all been tired. You sleep and you recover. Burnout is something deeper. It's a complete depletion, a sense of cynicism, detachment, and a reduced sense of accomplishment. It's when your brain and body basically stage a protest.
Yeah, it's not just a bad day or a stressful week. It's chronic stress that hasn't been managed, and it builds up. I mean, my body literally started giving me signals I couldn't ignore. Insomnia, despite being exhausted, constant headaches, digestion issues. It's like my physical self was screaming at me to stop, but my mental self was still trying to push through because of that ingrained weakness perception.
And it's fascinating, Lily, how often those physical symptoms are the first clear indicators, yet we still try to rationalize them away. Oh, I just need more coffee, or I'm not drinking enough water. We try to solve a deeply rooted psychological and emotional problem with superficial fixes. It's because the idea of actually stopping or admitting we can't keep up feels like such a monumental failure in a world that tells us we should be able to do it all.
That's a powerful point, Andi. And it brings up the question of where this pressure really comes from. Is it entirely self-imposed, or are there external factors that really push us to this breaking point? I think for many, it's a combination. There's the internal critic, but then there are also workplace cultures, economic pressures, social media's curated perfection, all telling us to strive for more, faster, constantly.
Definitely a combination. For me, the external pressure was huge. I saw everyone on LinkedIn boasting about their latest achievements, and I felt like if I wasn't constantly learning a new skill or taking on an extra project, I was falling behind. It creates this vicious cycle where you push harder, burn out, feel terrible, and then push even harder to try and catch up or prove your worth. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
And the irony, Lily, is that productivity actually plummets when you're burned out. Your cognitive function declines, your creativity is stifled, your decision-making becomes impaired. So, pushing through doesn't actually make you more effective, It just makes you sicker and less effective. It's a self-defeating strategy that's praised as resilience.
That's such a crucial insight, Andy. It's not resilience, it's self-destruction in slow motion. So if burnout isn't a weakness, what is it then? I mean, from my perspective, it's a signal. A really loud, obnoxious signal from your mind and body saying, hey, something needs to change here. It's a natural human response to prolonged stress, not a personal flaw.
Exactly, Denver. It's like the check engine light in your car. When that light comes on, you don't blame the car for being weak, do you? You take it to the mechanic, or you figure out what's wrong. You address the underlying issue. But when it comes to ourselves, we just try to ignore the light or tape over it, hoping it'll just go away.
And sometimes the problem isn't with the car. It's with the road you're driving on or the kind of fuel you're putting in. It's often systemic. Think about the healthcare sector during the pandemic, or teachers, or even parents. Burnout isn't a personal failing. It's often a sign that the systems we operate within are unsustainable. We need to start demanding better systems, not just telling individuals to cope better.
That's a really powerful reframe, Andy. It's not just about individual coping mechanisms, though those are important. It's also about advocating for healthier work environments, more realistic expectations, and a culture that values well-being alongside productivity. Because if everyone's burning out, it's not a few weak individuals, it's a flawed system.
So how do we start recognizing it sooner? And more importantly, how do we start talking about it without feeling that shame? I think the first step is really just acknowledging what it is. It's not you being bad at your job or bad at life. It's your body telling you it's had enough, and giving yourself permission to actually feel that instead of fighting it.
And recognizing the signs early, like what you mentioned, Lily. It's not just the extreme exhaustion. It can be subtle things: increased irritability, cynicism about your work, difficulty concentrating, feeling less effective than usual, sleep disturbances even when you're tired, or even just feeling apathetic about things you used to love. These are all little warning flags before the full-blown crisis.
Exactly. For me, it was that profound sense of detachment. Like I was just going through the motions. I wasn't feeling joy in anything. Even my hobbies felt like chores. That's when I knew I really needed to pump the brakes. And it's hard, because acknowledging it means potentially disappointing people, saying no to opportunities, or even taking a step back when you feel like you should be moving forward.
Oh, the no, that's a huge one. Setting boundaries is incredibly difficult, especially when you're a people pleaser or you're worried about missing out. But I've learned the hard way that saying no to something that will push you further into burnout is actually saying yes to your own well-being, and ultimately to being more effective and present when you are able to contribute.
And it takes practice. It's not just a switch you flip, it's a muscle you have to build. Starting small, maybe saying no to an extra commitment, or consciously blocking out time in your calendar just for yourself, without guilt. We need to normalize taking breaks, taking mental health days, and genuinely disconnecting. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity for sustained performance and health.
That's so true, Andy. And it's not always about grand gestures like quitting your job. Sometimes it's about making small, consistent changes. Taking short breaks, ensuring you're eating well, getting enough sleep, moving your body, connecting with people who uplift you. Those micro-interventions can add up to a significant buffer against burnout.
And leaning on your support system, Denver, that's something I wish I had done sooner. Instead, I tried to tough it out alone, which just made the isolation worse. When I finally opened up to a trusted friend, just saying, "I'm struggling, I think I'm burned out," it was like a huge weight lifted. Their understanding, their lack of judgment was incredibly healing.
It's vital to remember, Lily, that seeking help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of self-awareness and strength. Whether it's talking to a therapist, a coach, a mentor, or even just a very understanding friend, sometimes an objective perspective can help you see the patterns you're stuck in and offer pathways out that you couldn't see yourself.
Definitely, Andy. And let's not forget the power of self-compassion. We're often so hard on ourselves, judging our every perceived flaw. But if a friend came to us struggling with burnout, we wouldn't tell them they were weak or failing, would we? We'd offer empathy, understanding, and support. We need to extend that same kindness to ourselves. Recognize that you're human, you have limits, and it's okay to reach them.
That's probably the hardest part for me, Denver, the self-compassion. It's an ongoing practice, but every time I catch myself falling back into old patterns of pushing too hard, I try to remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my productivity. My worth is inherent, and I deserve to rest and thrive, not just survive.
And that's a perfect note to end on, Lily. Understanding that burnout isn't a badge of honor, and it certainly isn't a weakness. It's a critical message from ourselves and from the world that something needs to shift. Listening to that signal and acting on it is one of the bravest and strongest things you can do for yourself.
So true, Andy. Let's make it our mission to reframe this narrative, to support each other, and to create environments, both personal and professional, where well-being is prioritized. If you're feeling burned out, please know you are not alone, and it is absolutely not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're human, and you've been pushing yourself incredibly hard.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly important conversation. We hope it resonated with you and gave you some insights, or at least the comfort of knowing you're not the only one feeling this way.
And remember, your well-being matters. Take care of yourselves out there. This has been Life Signal Podcast, Episode 7.
We truly appreciate you tuning in. For more deep dives into life's essential signals, make sure to subscribe and come back for our next episode. Until then, take it easy.